We are working very closely with the innovation unit at DOS. And I want to thank Gagan Basser, as well as that we've been preparing this talk for a number of weeks. And we expect to collaborate in this and other areas. Today's talk is called the Toolkit for Advanced Data Analytics. TADA! And we chose to present it as TADA are like Lego blocks for building your apps. And of course, this is a tagline. You learn more as from the speakers. And then I want to thank Rebecca Kalinski, who's over here, one of our speakers for today, Gregory Ogola, as well on that side, and Karen and Eric, that they're not officially speakers, but they're the creators of TADA. They started it, they've developed it, and under the leadership of Lambert Hogenhout is back there as well. So thank you, Lambert, for being here today. And with that, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to say briefly the agenda. We're going to continue with DOS innovation, followed by the TADA presentation. I'll wrap up, again, back to DOS innovation, followed by Q&A. We want to leave ample time for Q&A, and then we'll go for the networking event on the 13th floor. For those of you who are remotely, sorry we can't do the networking part with you, but next time sign up very quickly when you see the invitation. If you're away, we will try to run TechNovation talks at your duty stations as well. If you like to organize them with us at your duty stations, let us know. We will be happy to facilitate experts and content. And then I'll pass it over to Gagan. Please, welcome to them.
Thanks, Jorge. And if I may just ask people that are joining virtually, if you could mute yourself. I think we're hearing some background noise. I think that will help everyone who's part of today's conversation. So as Jorge mentioned, today's conversation is focused on innovation, data, and TADA. And for us in DOS, we recognize the fact that innovation is at the heart of our mandate delivery. Whether we're in DOS, OICT, or any of the departments within the Secretariat or the UN system, innovation matters quite a bit. And why is that the case? When you think about innovation and what it means for us and why it matters, for us, there's 5 core components to it. There's a changing nature of work. When we think about COVID, what that resulted in, is new technologies that are in play, we must adopt them in order to be relevant in the modern day. Jorge mentioned the quintet of change and UN 2.0. Innovation is one of the core tenets of the quintet of change. We want to make sure we're able to embody that in some form or fashion. Our system-wide strategy, our efficiency agenda, they're all grounded on the belief that we will be innovating in a way that's successful and that meets the current moment. And of course, member states, they want us to do more with less. And for us to be able to do that, we have to think about how do we deploy new technologies, new ways of thinking, new ways of working to get to that end state. But we also recognize that to innovate is not often easy, right? We can all use the word and throw it around like, oh, we want to innovate, but there are challenges that exist with innovation. Whether it's a perception, the fact that innovation is vague at times, is scary. It can seem difficult to execute. At times there are approaches that are inconsistent, right? There's a lot of methodologies in play. There are a lot of tools that are in play, and they do at times clash. There's, of course, lack of alignment. There are a lot of frameworks that actually don't align with how we work and what we do. At times, there's lack of practicality on what's offered. And then, of course, there's just fatigue, right? We always want to innovate. There's a lot of options to innovate. How do you pick and choose what to do and how to do it? And for us, when we think about innovation within DOS, there are 3 core components of innovation. There's, of course, the resources, tools, financial resources, physical spaces, and the information that allows you to innovate. There's, of course, practices, and that's leadership support to enable you to give you the time and the space to do so. And of course,
hi, Gagan, your mic is muted.
And that's the resources, right? What resources can we provide all of you to be able to go from a challenge statement or an idea to a solution that in fact resolves a certain problem? And TADA is one of those core tools that exist, one of those core resources. So we're excited today to provide you an introduction of what TADA looks and feels like, how you can use it, and then coming at the very end of it, we'll talk about how do you go from having this wonderful tool to be able to actually now deploy it. So let me turn it over to the TADA team to walk us through this fantastic tooling.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Gagan, and thanks, Jorge, for inviting us. And hello, everyone. We are from the Analytics and Data Services team in OICT. So we are going to talk about this tool that's called TADA, but just a little bit of a background on what we do. Analytics and Data Services, we have been around for maybe, well, close to, you can think of it like 7-8 years. And our task is basically to try and address the data needs for our colleagues in the Secretariat. And that can be challenging, especially with a small team. So what we started doing was a lot of this analytics and reporting, and that included dashboards, self-service dashboards. I think we might have done some training, which some of you might have been involved in. But what we have noticed is as time goes by, and people get to understand the value in which data, and as Gagan said, helps and drives innovation, people want to try and do some more advanced analytics, not just dashboards. We still support that, but going on to the next level. And that is what we are trying to attempt to do here. So what we have is the TADA platform, which is a bit more technical, but we're going to try and explain it in simple terms that makes it easy for you to understand capabilities and what it can do. And what we ask is, even if you see the examples that we do, because we have some very rudimentary examples, try and open your mind and project and think how those can be adapted and co-opted into some of your own requirements. And we'll be happy to talk about them in the networking session that comes after this. So I'm going to start by really just trying to explain briefly, and then what it is and why we did it. I'm going to go a little bit into, or our team will go a little bit into explaining what each one of the services are. We keep increasing those services, but we'll just touch on them really briefly, one by one by one. What are the services, just so that in case there's any that sparks an idea in your head, we can discuss that later. And then after that, my colleagues, Rebecca and Eric, are going to go through those. We have about 3 examples, very rudimentary examples of applications that have been built on top of this thing that we call TADA. Okay, so that's my quick introduction. So I'm going to start by explaining what TADA is. And I'm going to say here, before I do that, just a little bit of an introduction. We also have 2 colleagues, Karen and Lambert, who won't speak. But just so that you didn't think that we ignored them. But just explaining who I am. Like I said, I've been in the organization for about 20 years now, working in all aspects of IT. For the last 10 of them, a lot of them in data analytics and data services. And then I'm going to let my colleague Rebecca also just say a few things about yourself.
Hi, I'm Rebecca, and I'm a data scientist and web developer working in Greg's team in the Analytics and Data Services unit, also in the Emerging Tech team as well within OICT. I'll carry it over to Eric.
All right, sounds great. Hi everyone, I'm Eric. So I've been with Greg's team for a bit over 2 years now, mainly working on data science as well as some cloud resource management. So very nice to see you guys all here. And shall we start the discussion?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. So what is TADA? And I must say Jorge already took out the thunder. I had a joke then, It's an acronym. It just stands for Toolkit for Advanced Data Analytics. And as Jorge said, TADA. So like I explained, what we're trying to do is move beyond the basic analytics of building dashboards and reports, right? And this is what we have discovered in the Secretariat, that to move this to the next level, there's a certain foundational level of advanced analytics tools that we need that most people don't have yet. They're fairly available now, but they take a bit of time to build by yourself. And no one had that layer, right? So this TADA basically, if someone put you in an elevator and told you quick in 30 seconds, tell me what it is. It's just a toolkit for advanced analytics, that lower layer that allows advanced analytics beyond the analytics that we have. So it's intended for, well, data scientists, power users. There's a bit of a technical aspect to it in tying it in and being able to get what we call the API interfaces. I don't worry about technical jargon. API is basically a piece of technology for two different computer systems to talk to each other to get data. But what TADA is intended for, it allows for anyone who is playing around with data, power users, to be able to connect to it and take advantage of some certain layer of toolkits that allow you to do your projects much faster. It's targeted for that, but I think it's basically with a little bit of exposure, and we even have additional training that we do on TADA. Basically, any user can be able to, with enough interest, with enough motivation, anyone can be able to adapt some of the tools that we use here. Okay, why did we do that, right? And I've been talking about advanced analytics. And there are some certain terms which we think of as advanced, but most of you might have already heard of them, right? Things like NLP, natural language processing, which is basically just trying to analyze text to make sense of it. You know, text and speaking is very unstructured, right? How do you take this and analyze and make sure that you get some certain, how does a computer make sure that it gets some certain value out of text that's been put, right? You might hear terms like NEI, named entity recognition. Given a bunch of words, pick out names, people, places, things like this, which is, we call those the foundation of advanced analytics. Right? Those are the things that what we are trying to do is get them and put them in a platform, make them available using a standard technology, what we call APIs, that if you're building an application, you don't need to worry about those, right? Otherwise, each time someone comes in and they're trying to do an application with advanced analytics that needs something called, for example, sentiment analysis, you have to go and build that layer first and then come back and continue doing your project, right? Which is almost like if everyone is doing it, if all of you are doing it here by yourself, that's what we call reinventing the wheel. So that's what we are trying to get rid of. And we're trying to put it through this web service layer, the API, and we're calling that the TADA service. So I'm just going to go into a little bit of a graphic here, just to explain, just whatever I've said, I'm going to repeat it with a graphic, just to try and make it. And again, during the network session, if that graphic is cheesy or doesn't make sense, please give me your feedback. Whether it's good or bad, I would like to be able to get it so that I can be able to explain it to people separately. Yeah? So we have two scenarios. Imagine two scenarios here. We have, let's say we have a data scientist, and she has been building a report based on a ticketing system, right? Like most of you are familiar with the ticketing system I need. And normally you can do, I've seen a lot of different dashboards that try and do analytics on when a ticket was submitted, how long did it take, was the SLA kept or wasn't it? And those things are there. But there's one thing that's of great value inside such a ticketing system. If any of you have ever been involved, there's a lot of text that people write in there. I put in my application for the service and I never got it back, and all that text normally is lost, right? So imagine in this case, the data scientist has a bright idea and says, you know what I want to do? I want to get all that text, capture it, and do something called sentiment analysis, which is just basically getting the emotion of what the text says. Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it neutral, right? And I think that's a wealth of information. So what the data scientist has to do before building that report or dashboard, right, spends 2 weeks building this foundational layer. Spends time building something called looking for sentiment analysis. If I throw text at it, how will it give it back to me? I've explained what named entity recognition. Did this come from this location or that? Is it in text? Can I find that information? And any other natural language processing that does. Spends 2 weeks, and after doing that for 2 weeks, then gets the report that they need. Now, then a month later, you have someone who has discovered how to develop a little app on their own, a citizen developer, and they come up with an idea. Your we're all familiar with QR codes. We're going to show an example today of a QR code application where you put something in a QR code, you scan, and you can get contacts, you can get marketing information, you can get links to an IP. So they decide, how about let's use a QR code to build a business card such that if you scan, you get someone's contact immediately into your phone as opposed to having to send it to them. So the citizen developer again has to do that foundational level for 2 weeks, and then after that is when they build their app, right? So all these things, this section here is what we see repeated many times. This one that we're calling the foundational building blocks, okay? And that's repeated again and again. So what we're trying to do with TADA now is, how about if you don't have to do those foundational blocks, right? How about if we provide them to you as a web service, okay? And there are many of them. I'm going to talk, Eric and Rebecca are going to talk about them briefly, but these are the ones that are there, but we're always increasing them. So put these, make it possible, and the next time someone is coming, rather than spend those 2 weeks, they go directly to the service, they get what they need, and the second person also goes directly to the service, gets what they need, and saves that time, right? Essentially, this is what we're saying the reason for TADA is today. And we're going to increase those services as much as we can. We're working to continuously put more and more services based on ideas and suggestions that we get from people like you. So this slide, we also use it for training. There's a lot of stuff about APIs. You know, I don't want to get into the technical jargon of APIs. I explained an API is just this interface, that technology that allows different computer systems to talk to each other. And you don't have to worry about things. Security is centralized, right? And of course, because you don't have to spend the time building your own things, you know, it's much faster. Time to value, as they call it, not time to value is much faster than it would have been before. And then other things like standards and stuff come into place, right? But this is the reason why we did TADA. Okay, TADA has been available since 2022. That's the URL. You can all go. Eric is going to talk briefly about how it works and basically take you through the screen a little bit. But it's there. And the other thing I'd like to say about it is we have the version that we have right now, it's called the Community Edition, right? It's free and can be used by all UN personnel. We don't charge, and we intend to keep it free for as long as we can. There might be a need as we go along, and we're looking into that, for implementing what we call an enterprise version, which will complement, will not replace, will complement this free version. But this free version is meant for the users I talked about, right? The data scientists, the power users, and people like you to be able to go and build stuff and try and put it in, test it and use it for your application. Yeah. If you find you need it for an enterprise model where data security is important, right? Data privacy, all those things, volume, right? We are thinking about, and we have started some work towards doing an enterprise version. That is a separate discussion. Okay, I'm going to stop there and give it over to Eric, who will explain a little bit about the interface and the different services that we have.
Sure. So thank you, Greg. Now, my colleague Rebecca and I will go through the list of the TADA services available on the platform. Before we get into that, just a quick note saying, so when designing these APIs, our intention is to keep the task as simple as possible so it can be better used to automating repetitive tasks. Now, so about these endpoints, first up, we have the language detection. The name is pretty self-explanatory. So it detects the language present in the given text. And next up, we have the sentiment analysis. This one analyzes and identifies the tone of the text being given. And next up, we have the named entity recognition, as Greg mentioned before. Really, it's being used to detect, say, a person, location, or organization that's present in the text given. Now, next up, we have the geocoding and reverse geocoding. This one converts the map coordinates between map coordinates and the city and country information on UN buildings. And next up, we have the QR code generator, and this one generates the QR code as you can see here, it can generate a nice UN-branded QR code based on the input on the information you've given to it, and we'll be showing a demo shortly after this section. And next up, we have a date and time parser. This one takes in word that describes date and times and convert them into actual dates and times, so a computer can better understand that. And next up, we have personal identifiable information detection, or what we call PII. That's really a mouthful, but this one, what it do is it detects and masks up the sensitive information, say date of birth or identification numbers that's present in the text. And next up, we have the gender neutrality detection. This one is checking through the text, checking it whether it's gender neutrality or not. If it's not gender neutral, it will also highlight where and why it is not gender neutral. And now I hand it over to Rebecca for the.
Just a quick thing before. Sorry to interrupt you, but I think we went through that a little fast. Don't worry about that. We're going to provide you with all the slides. We just didn't want to bore you with all the technical details. We just wanted to present them in a little bit of detail. I mean, for you to understand what services are available.
Yeah, I have a question. So we're going to have the Q&A session after the presentation, but I want to interrupt you very rudely and just ask a question as an end user. So I imagine that I am a business owner, and we have this mailbox to receive comments from the public about a conference, for example. Could I use TADA to automate that when we receive an email, first we detect the language, so that we route it to the French or the Russian speakers or the Arabic speakers. Then we analyze whether the email is a congratulatory email or a complaint. If it's a complaint, it gets expedited, it gets a faster response. Maybe it's an important issue. And then can I elaborate a response with any of the TADA tools, like maybe the talking point generator, I think. And then can I check that this email is gender neutral? It's not saying, it's not using it. And then can I make sure that I remove any personally identifiable information from it? Can I also
you notice what Jorge has done there. He's very good at marketing. So the answer to all that is yes. Okay, but you have to build the application on top. The services to help you do that. In fact, that's a very good way of putting it. Thank you. The services are all there, the foundational blocks, but there has to be an application that's built on top specifically to orchestrate and do all these pieces. Let's finish with, and then we'll get into the Q&A a little bit more. Sorry for interrupting you, Rebecca.
Oh, no, this is great. And so then to just wrap things up, we're now on to our more AI-intensive services. So this next one here is text summarization, which simply summarizes your text using AI. And moving along, next we have our talking point generator service, which uses AI to generate talking points on any number of topics supplied by the user. And you're in for a treat because we're going to be giving a little demo of its capabilities shortly. And lastly, we have our non-privacy synthetic data services, which uses AI and mathematical models to create artificial data.
Okay, so as now we are going into the demo session.
Yeah, we have a question back here. I mean, we have a question at the end, but if you
if it's very pressing, then you can ask the question.
I was just wondering, what is your failure rate? The error, I mean, how much error is in it?
Oh, with regard to which service?
Basically for all, because garbage in, garbage out. So I need to know for language detection or for using machine learning, I figure, or to generate text. What is your error rate?
That is a really long discussion that we can have. But what I can tell you briefly is that any one of these services, like if you do language detection, right, or you do sentiment analysis, it gives it to you as a probability score. This is probably with a confidence of 50% positive, or this is probably with a confidence of 60% negative or neutral. Even with the language detection, normally most of this service, if it gives it back to you, it gives it back to you as a probability, yeah? Because who is to tell the machine whether something is failed or not failed? It's basically just a probability. But then, based on your own additional decisions, you can decide with what weight to take that as true or false. But yeah, the failure rate, and that's a whole different discussion that we can have based on how to model that and make sure that what we're doing is accurate or not.
Thank you.
Okay,
So should we proceed?
yeah, go on with the demo.
So as now we are going to the demo section, I'm sharing my screen here, so please do let us know if the screen's popping up. If you are seeing the screen right here, if you are going to the unite-tada.un.org URL, you'll be greeted with this homepage for our TADA platform, where this serves as an entry point for our API documentations, as well as a contact button up there, just in case if you have any questions for us. Now we do have embedded a testing field, or what we call a playground, within this homepage. So if you want to give it a try, really see how does it work in action, you can simply test this from there without writing a single line of code. Now we can simply click on try it out here, and the page will navigate itself to that portion. For the first demo, we'll be using the QR code generator. So we're just gonna expand this drop-down menu and select QR code. Now more options popped out. We're just gonna grab the example 2, since this one is a bit more being utilized a bit more within the organization, the card. Now it has this field popped out down here with everything included automatically. But if you want to change that, you can definitely do that manually right here. And next thing, we just need to hit compute. And voila, now we have a nice scannable vCard QR code for you to scan. I mean, this one, let's see if I can. There we go. Now that's the complete code if you guys want to give it a try.
Ta-da.
There we go.
Excellent.
So yeah, this service really is just taking in the information you're given and pops out the QR code based on your given information. And our colleagues in OICT has already been building up applications based on this service, which is right here. So for these Power Apps, what you guys normally do, basically like you log in first. And while you're logging in, this Power App will take in your personal information from the SharePoint list or Azure AD, and it will load up the data and send them to QR code generator for the processing. And now it's going to pop out with the same almost the same QR code based on the information you get you've given to the endpoint, and show it right there. Should we mention it's
it's an application that's just a sample that OICT has done, right? I don't think it's ready for production. If anyone is really interested, we can show you and we can give you the link. But really, as Erica said, is yes, you go in and when you log into SharePoint, it has your details. It gives it to you as a QR code, and then you can take that, put in your business card, and make it easy when you're giving your business card, or even just show people this way. And instead of having to tell them my number is 646, no, it's 62, and then it makes it much easier. But again, like I said, ask me another question about can it do this? No, I'm just kidding. But this is just it's to fire your imagination about the different possibilities in which you can use it. QR codes can be used for so many different things. Okay? Events, putting together links back to repositories that you use. We actually did a QR code for the meeting invite for this particular meeting. I don't know if we shared it widely or
Yeah, evidence.
Yeah. But anyway, that's the first example. Yeah.
Now I'll hand it over to Rebecca.
Just a
Sorry,
quick
I have a quick
question.
question. So if someone were to use a QR code, does it the backend, as a producer of the QR code, can I access how many people used it?
So what the QR code does is, because it's a visual thing that you're scanning, if this scan takes you back to another link, like for example to another website, then yes, right? But just you can print the QR code,
sure.
yeah? So if you just print it and scan it and it's just putting in like context, then that might be difficult.
Yeah. No, but if it's like analytics that it can provide me, that
Yes.
how many people have gone to this report that I've published and
Yes.
and access it.
As long as you put the analytics. Now this is our other heart of analytics. If you put it the counter at the source where you are actually going to the link, then yes.
Moving along, I'm going to go ahead and switch my screen over. So now we're going to do a very quick demo of our talking points generator. And what's really nice about this is you have the ability to put in topics as well as extra context. So let's say, for example, you were getting ready to give a speech, and let's say that speech was about peace and security with regard to the United Nations. So you could put in those input topics, select how many talking points you would like it to generate. And this is set up in a way where if you do it multiple times, it's going to have some variability in the answers as well. So you can continue doing it if you're not completely satisfied with the result. And if there's extra context that you want to add as well, some documents that it probably would know nothing about, you can add those as well to help with what it generates. So now I'll just go ahead and compute this. And so as you can see, it results in I asked for 5 talking points. So here's the first one. The United Nations plays a crucial role in promoting peace and security around the world through its various agencies, Then it moves on to talk about the UN Security Council as the primary body responsible for maintaining international peace and security. Number 3, the UN has, so it just keeps going on the list. And you're welcome to get pretty specific about your input topics and experiment a little bit, but it can definitely be a very helpful tool in more quickly getting ready for those speeches and talks. So moving along, we're now going to show you a demo of another service of ours, which is the gender neutrality detection. And this here, what it does is, given any text, it will flag any words that might have any type of gender context to it, and that can help you in the future to possibly reword things to make it more gender neutral, for example. So here we have every permanent representative must submit his credentials to protocol, and it's flagged his as being a masculine, a more masculine word. And Greg and I were going to also show you another example and possibly how this could tie in with work at the UN.
Right. And I have to be very careful about what I'm going to say next, so that it's not taken as a criticism of the organization. But one of the things we thought about that this could actually be used productively. The organization is an old organization. We've been around since 1940. right? And there's some documents that were written way back then, right? Universal Declaration of Human Rights, for example, written that was published in 1948, right? 1948. It's an old document, and as you can expect, I'm not, by the way, I'm not saying that we rewrite the Declaration of Human Rights. I want to be very clear about that. But imagine if there are some other old publications and documents that we are reviewing. You could use a service such as this to go through, and and the good thing about APIs is you can actually write the computer program to go through vast amounts of text and keep pulling the API repetitively and do that huge amount of work in a short amount of time. We could set it to copy and paste Article 11, for example, the first part. We could copy and paste and say, are there any areas of this document that need to be revised or looked at with particular attention? And it could make that job much easier for you. Again, this is just to get your imagination thinking about the different ways in which you can use these services. Yeah, I'm not trying to form a revolution in the organization about the documents that we have written. So that's just another example of how we can do it. Yeah?
Just enabling it.
Yes.
Just a quick question. Is it available in one language or all 6 languages?
So there are some certain aspects of it because you put in text and it gives you back information. There are things, for example, like we have language detection that make it possible for you to do. But like this I think is only available in English for now. Yes, we haven't gotten to that stage, but it's one of the things that we're going to do since we already have language detection.
Yeah, thank you.
Greg, just sorry to interrupt. So how many more slides do you have? Let's finish the presentation.
This is the end.
This is it. Great. Super. So then
I know what you're thinking of that.
No, I think now we can really open it for questions. I don't know if
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
I think there's a question over there.
Yes, but you know what? I think let's we have an intervention here from DOS, and then we'll come to other questions.
So just very quickly, and thank you to the entire TADA team. Now that we've had a chance to look at what the tools look and feel like, now the question really is around practicality. Now what do we do? And a lot of the question in the chat are about, can it do X, can it do Y? Does it resolve my personal use case? And so what we created in DOS is really not a methodology for you to be able to kind of work through an innovation challenge and using TADA and really other tools that are available to you to work toward the solution that you can implement. And we've done so, what we call the Innovating for Operational Excellence Toolkit that's focused on process, systems, and service improvements. But again, it's open and accessible to everybody as they deem fit. And within that framework, when we think about innovation, you have to do it in a very curated way. And what we have here is a three-phase approach where you discover the problem or challenge, you design multiple solutions, and then of course you deliver on one ideal solution. Within the innovation framework, what we often say is, you start off with a challenge or an idea, not a problem, right? You have to discover your problem and make sure you're solving for the right exact thing. And then through that work, you're able to pinpoint one core problem and develop solutions for that specific problem you find. And TADA is a great opportunity and a great tool to help you advance that solution building itself. So if we think about, let's say, an example where you're in a team that is often either missing deadlines or hard pressed for deadlines, that may be a challenge, right? Why can we not be the deadlines that are put forth upon us? Maybe to a discovery phase, you have conversations with your team members, those you provide services to. You realize that the problems you're having are more around maybe a lack of resource than timeliness, right? So you might understand the problem is, we either lack the resources, we lack time, we lack the knowledge base. And so you work towards a solution to build towards a process or a system where you're able to meet the timeliness of what work you have to deliver. And let's say, for example, one of the reasons you aren't able to meet your respective deadlines is because you spend a lot of time reading papers, you spend a lot of time drafting talking points. Tools like TADA are able to help you work towards that, right? So you might build use the TADA tools, build an overlay an app on that, design multiple solutions, one for summarization, one for talking points, you overlay the gender neutrality work, you test, you iterate, you refine, you figure out what works for you, and ultimately design on that solution and then deliver on that, right? With the notion being that you're never truly done with innovation. Once you have one solution out, you always refine and build on it because you have a new challenge you're solving for. And so the DOS Innovation Toolkit serves to guide you through that innovation lifecycle and help you get from that challenge statement to a deliverable ideal solution. And we do so, and as I mentioned earlier, one of the core tenets of innovation is around having the resources to get you where you want to be. And so the DOS Toolkit, which is accessible to everybody, we'll share the link in the chat, provides you with 14 step-by-step walkthroughs of how to execute on the notion of discovery. How do you actually do process design? How do you actually do surveys that get you to the right data you want to get? We also provide you with 21 templates on how to do risk mitigation plans, how to do user journeys, how to do stakeholder mapping. And then of course, there's 9 best practice guides as well. We use user testing, survey design, how to develop communications, things that will enable you to focus on your innovation work rather than having to go into the internet and figure out what are the best practices for X, Y, Z. We spent almost a year doing market research to build out this toolkit and the tools that are in it, and really empower everyone in their innovation journey to use the toolkit as one of the many resources available to you to get to an innovative outcome. I'll just flag that as we work toward building this community of innovation, there are many things that are available to you. As I mentioned, one of the core ones, of course, is the Innovation Toolkit. We also have, if you're within DOS or not within DOS, you're welcome to join our Innovation Teams channel where we share additional resources around not just innovation, but behavioral science, foresight, and other portions of the quintet of change. As Jorge mentioned earlier, this conversation is part of many. So we urge everyone to join the TechNovation Talks team site as well, to stay attuned to what's on the horizon. And then finally, as I mentioned, innovation has to be done in environments that are conducive to more free thinking. And so we do have a space available to those who are interested. It's in the Language Center. It's called the Lighthouse Space. It's a free-forming, flexible space that allows people to move away from a conference room like this, which is a bit more structured, and go to a physical space that has modular everything to be able to think through your topics and work through an innovation challenge on your own. So let me turn it back over to Jorge.
Yes, thanks again. So as you can see, so there's a lot of information packed in the TADA presentation and in DOS Innovation presentation. And the contrast is that we're trying to get you to imagine solutions that you can build based on certain tools. And we also want to present you with a way to get there. So how to go about designing your tools, but in a way that they have a chance to make it to be implemented and supported and adopted by the organization. So we're not going to be able to cover that in these 15 minutes that we have left. So that's why we want you to come to the networking session and also to follow up and send your questions through the chat so we can respond them afterwards. And I think Gagan is also going to invite you to maybe follow up activities. Why did I say that now?
Yeah, so again, if you go, we'll send a link via chat, but we highly recommend everyone download the toolkit, see what it looks and feels like. As a team, we provide both obviously physical resources like the toolkit itself, but we also provide hand-holding as well. So if you're working through an innovation lifecycle, you just need a little help with any portion of it, when you go to our website or the Knowledge Gateway, they'll give you a resource on how to reach us. But as Jorge mentioned, there's tons of resources available to you around innovation. The key really is sparking that journey, right? And the toolkit and the TADA tools are a great mechanism to help you work that journey and get to a solution that is viable. And I'll just quickly add, as part of just the notion of innovation and the focus on discover, design, deliver, and the idea that TADA is